Hello, I'm Richard Toye, and with me is Dr. James Goodchild, who is currently writing a book on scientific and technical intelligence during World War II. Now, Jim, this topic of scientific and technical intelligence, tell us about it, and particularly, what about the technical intelligence? What do you mean by that?
Well, scientific and technical intelligence was, from the British perspective, was using scientists to try and attempt to understand what the Germans were scientifically and technologically capable of, and to assess any threats therein.
And one of the famous examples is the so-called bending of the beams, isn't it, to do with radar.
Yes.
And also, we're thinking of examples such as towards the end of World War II, trying to work out what the German rocket program, the V weapons program, was.
It was indeed, yes. And from the technical aspect, it was also trying to understand what new aircraft could potentially cause concern for the RAF and the United States Army Air Force. But it was also the technical gadgetry within the cockpits that was also a major concern for the technical aspect of scientific and technical intelligence.
And partly the process of actually doing this was that they would find crashed bombers and they would find bits of equipment, yes. And they would then try and work out what the heck what was being used for.
Yes, exactly right. Yes, technical intelligence. It's certainly during the Battle of Britain had a significant advantage in that the intelligence was arriving on the doorstep, as it were. Yeah. For scientific intelligence, it was much more focused upon the research aspect, much more tricky, of course, to attain quality or intelligence of a qualitative nature.
So really the distinction between the scientific intelligence and the technical intelligence is that the scientific is trying to work out what the German scientists knew, whereas the technical intelligence is looking at the actual bits of equipment.
Yes, exactly right. And it's very interesting that scientific intelligence often needed to use technical intelligence to be able to further understand the complexities of the technology that they were hearing about from resistance operatives and the other more covert methods of intelligence.
And then sort of looking at this in a kind of an institutional perspective, as I said, there's a huge different range of organisations within Britain that are involved in these tasks.
What I found with my research for my PhD, and I found even more so expanding the PhD thesis into the book, is the enormity and the complexity of the organisations that you discussed there. It was phenomenal.
Yeah, and I mean, I suppose that one rather striking part of your research is the contribution of the people who were doing aerial photography as well.
Yes, Medmenham was integral to the understanding of scientific and technological capabilities of the Axis powers. And only recently has much of this history of Medmenham come to light.
And how much of those original photos have actually been preserved for people to look at today?
There's a lot of photographs stored in an archive in Edinburgh. But there's also a majority, a large percentage of archival documentation that is largely untouched.
Right.
Certainly in the National Archives there is also a Medmenham collection. The photographs themselves, there is a very large holding.
And again, just to clarify what people were actually doing with these photographs, there were sort of overflights of areas that might look as though they had some kind of object or site of interest in, say, northern France, and they would take aerial photos. And they might come back and they might get nothing, or they might get something, and then people would be sort of staring at it with a magnifying glass, trying to work out what exactly they might be looking at.
Yes, remarkable, meticulous work that went into analysing sometimes hundreds, even thousands of different photographs to piece them together to try and find one factory or one laboratory. And this in itself led to camouflaging to protect the laboratories from overhead reconnaissance.
Right, so in a sense both sides know that the others are trying to do intelligence work on them and they're trying to take countermeasures.
Yes.
Now in a sense, where do you think that, in what ways does your research change the existing picture of intelligence during World War II, or indeed the history of World War II more generally?
Well, the perception, the common perception of scientific intelligence during the Second World War has come from R.V. Jones's Most Secret War.
Yeah. Published in 1977.
Yes, it was released in 77. He was given permission in 77. And it was published directly after the Ultra Secret was revealed.
Right.
Published, I think, in February 1978. Most historians, almost all historians, have taken Jones's word as verbatim.
Yeah.
And my research has uncovered many oversights, many aspects of
in a sense, he put himself very much at the centre of the story.
Exactly
but
right,
as we've been discussing, the story was much larger, and so therefore, although what he was saying was not necessarily hugely misleading in itself, it was kind of more misleading by omission than by commission. Perhaps.
Yes, but there was embellishment as well.
Yes.
Which, of course, is almost expected in memoir.
Yeah, so it's a very, in a sense, part of the reason it's become such an influential account is because it is so colourful.
Oh, indeed, yes, it's a great read. There's no doubt about that. But there is so much more to scientific and technical intelligence than Jones revealed, and the larger picture really needs to come to light.
Jim Goodchild, thank you very much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.